enemy's plight. Shadows fall, dimming the light. Whispers grow, a rising tide. Vindicator, where do you hide? Steel is over, heart ablaze. Through smoky haze, he sets his gaze. Justice calls a burning need. A city's wounds he vows to heed. From cobbled streets to tower high, Vindicator takes to the sky. Strikes back with iron hands, defender of this promised land. Breaks the chains, sets spirits free. Vindicator for all to see. Whispers turn to thunderous roar as shadows creep. He slams the door on tyranny's cruel, grasping hand. He fights for freedom, takes a stand with courage born of darkest night. He ignites hope, a guiding light. Strikes back with iron hands, defender of this promised land. Breaks the chains, sets spirits free. Vindicator for all to see. Though battles rage and darkness reigns, hope's ember burns within his veins. He'll never yield, he'll never fall. He answers freedom's clarion call. Strikes back with iron hands, defender of this promised land. Breaks the chains, sets spirits free. Vindicator for all to see. A symbol etched against the moon. Vindicator rising soon.
Hello everybody, how are you all doing? I hope you're doing well. So this is a bit of an impromptu live stream because the narrative is being set. If you all watched my video this morning when I was talking about the excuse that the Starmer regime was coming through for the upcoming budget, the narrative is well and truly being set. All the talking heads are coming out to blame Brexit for the state of the country. Obviously, they've got to do it before the budget comes at the end of November, just to set the stage so that when taxes go through the roof, they'll just blame Brexit for it. We all know it's absolute bullshit, don't we? Thumbs up if we know that that is absolute bullshit. We all know why the country is in a mess, don't we? It's consecutive shit governments. And it's not just Labour, it's Labour Conservative, all the way back to Tony Blair that have destroyed this country. It's not about tribalism, it's not about party politics. The fact of the matter is we've just had really shit governments since 1997. That's why we're in this mess right now. I don't care. That's the reason. Shit governments. So something I should have mentioned in my video this morning, but I didn't, and quite rightly somebody corrected me on it in the comments to that video, was I should have mentioned the 2008 credit crunch, where we bailed out the banks because they gambled with our money and they basically lost big time, and so we had to bail them out. And there was no reckoning for that whatsoever. They were just allowed to get away with it, and taxpayer money bailed out the banks. And it was just downhill from there. We've just been in financial chaos ever since, of course. Then we had the plandemic, the scamdemic, whatever you want to call it, where we decided to shut down the economy for 2.5 years, and we thought we'd be okay, or we'll be okay. We'll just stop people going out and spending their money. We'll shut down the economy and that sort of thing, and things will be just fine. And of course, they weren't, because businesses just net. It's not just the hospitality industry as well. Lots of other businesses just didn't recover from that time either. They really didn't. Right. So I don't know if Tom is knocking about. He might be knocking about. I don't know if he's going to be coming in today. If he comes in the chat, then we'll invite him in. He's been knocking about on X, so I don't know. Right. So who would best represent the arch Remainers to put forward the argument that Brexit is to blame for everything? Who could it be? Who could it be? Well, let's go and have a look, and promise not to laugh. Don't laugh. It's not his fault, right, the way he looks. I'm not talking about his skin colour or anything like that before anybody jumps down my neck. It's nothing to do with that. The guy's just an absolute moron. Let's oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Right, here we go. Right. So obviously the absolute retard that comes out in all of this is Femi. Actually, we'll go to my bookmarks because I've got it next. The notifications are going to keep getting in the way of that. Well, we'll go on and bookmarks. I've already bookmarked it, so it'll be in there anyway. Somewhere.
Austerity, Brexit.
Yeah, here we go. Rachel from accounts already talking shit as always, but there you go. Right. So Femi saying it. I'm not going to play his video because I'll probably get copyright strike, but this is Femi. It's official. The British people will now be paying a Brexit tax. You've heard it officially. It's a Brexit tax. He's labelled it a Brexit tax. So this is what these idiots are going to call it, isn't it? Rachel Reeves is blaming Brexit for the increases in taxes and austerity policies labelled introducing in the autumn budget. It's got nothing to do with them being an absolute shit government, has it? Nothing to do with that whatsoever. At all. Right, so look at some of the chats, what the chat is saying. Afternoon, Richard. Oh, they all are. They're all absolutely shocking. Yeah, you're right. They're absolutely shocking. Right. Let's obviously a Remainer, because you can always tell the Remainers when they've got this shit in their bio, the FBPE, whatever it is, shit they've got in there. The shift has finally happened. It's no longer the botched Brexit deal. It's Brexit itself. Finally, obviously, the Ramonas are jumping all over this. They're having a wet dream about this. They don't realise these people are absolute fucking idiots. But let's hear what she's got to say. She's going to blame Brexit all the way through this.
Austerity, Brexit, and the ongoing impact of Liz Truss's mini budget. All of those things have weighed heavily on the UK economy.
It's got nothing to do with printing money like it's going out of fashion. Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with the fact that we're paying millions, was it 8 million a day on illegal immigrants that shouldn't be in this country a day. Don't forget that they took over from an already struggling economy because the Conservatives were just as shit as they were. Consecutive governments up to this point were just as shit. And instead of coming in, which is what they should have done, instead of coming in and shrinking government back, government spending, cutting completely back on all that kind of stuff, deporting everybody that comes in the country, it's an expense we don't need, get rid of them. I'm talking about this would happen if a sane government had come into power. This is what they should have done. They should have cut back government spending completely, just took a hatchet to it. Right, we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that to save money. They've done the exact opposite. They've done exactly what socialism does. It runs out of other people's money rapidly because of their insane policies. They've literally done nothing to alleviate the problems of this country. Instead, they've done the exact opposite. They've just printed money and spent money like it's going out of fashion. Look at how many billions they've sent to the Ukraine. Billions sent to the Ukraine. How much in foreign aid have we sent to countries that don't really need it? We sent billions to India, a country with a space program, and we think they need foreign aid. Countless other countries where we've just given money away to them for no legitimate reason whatsoever, because it's all a big giant money laundering scam where these people line their pockets because they're on boards of companies or they're shareholders in companies that contracts are given to for government contracts. And then all this money comes back nicely laundered into their back pockets that they're giving to these countries. That's how it works. It's got nothing to do with Brexit at all. So look, Rachel McCown doesn't mention that being in the EU was costing the UK 18.8 million pounds annually, and that was back in 2014. Yeah, and we've got very little to show for that as well. People used to come and say, "Oh, look, the EU is paying for this for us." It's like, you do understand how it works, don't you? We give the EU lots of money, and then they give us some of that money back to pay for things in this country. It's not like the EU is giving us money. They're not. They're giving some of our own money back to pay for things. People just don't understand that, though. Think about your budgeting at home. You earn X and you spend Y. She decided to increase Y by 20% rather than reduce it by 20%. Therefore, X needs to increase. Unfortunately, X will reduce after her budget. Exactly. They simply can't take any more money from the people. There's nothing else they can do. There's literally nothing else they can do. They're between a rock and a hard place. So the only thing they know, they know they're doomed. They know the economy is going to tank. They know we're going to go bankrupt. So that's why they're setting up the excuses now. The fall guy for this is going to be Brexit, not Rachel Reeves, Rachel from accounts, somebody who should never have been in that job in the first place, somebody who isn't qualified to do it. How are you doing? Brexit is in name only. We were more time in lines with the traitorous EU than you think. You know, I know we are. I know all about this, Stefan. You're just preaching to the choir on that one, mate. Everybody knows that we never really left the EU. We're completely tied to it. I was saying at the time, where the deal came through, that yeah, we haven't left. This is just Brno, Brexit in name only. It's Theresa May's rehashed surrender deal, and that's what we got. Always follow the money. Many government contracts go companies with politicians as board members. Exactly, that's what I just said. We're not stupid. My audience isn't stupid. We all know what's happening, don't we? People should know before voting. I've started asking people if they vote responsibly, but they always say yes and have no clue about anything. Exactly. People need to stop voting for these people like they're celebrities, like they did with Boris Johnson. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for Boris Johnson. It's like, no, vote for the policies. You have to treat political parties like utility companies. They're not celebrities. They're not rock stars. You know, if that particular brand or that political party isn't delivering you the service that you require, then you switch. You switch from them and you go to a party that is delivering you that will deliver you the policies that you require. And more on that is, you need to demand it of them as well. You need to hold them to account. Loads of people who join these parties don't hold them to account because it's just blind loyalty. And that's why they get away with so much. It's their membership that should hold them to account. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you putting these policies in? Nobody wants these policies. And then if they don't listen to you, that's when you vote with your money. You take it elsewhere. You don't just carry on following a political party like it's a football team. That's where we've gone wrong in this country. Sorry, Vin, that figure for the UK being in the EU was £18.8 billion. Back in, yeah, exactly. It was a lot of money. Big Brother mentality. Yeah, exactly right. Let's get back. Right, I'm going to play it again.
Austerity, Brexit, and the ongoing impact of Liz Truss's mini budget, all of those things have weighed heavily on the UK economy. Already, people.
Is it me, or has their voice morphed into Keir Starmer? Is that just Keir Starmer in a way? Well, why did they all sound like this all of a sudden?
Well, the budget is shit because I'm a shit chancellor and I shouldn't be in this job because I'm shit. You like my haircut?
Thought that the UK economy would be 4% smaller because of Brexit. Now, of course, we are undoing some of that damage by the deal that we did with the EU earlier this year, but there is no doubting that the impact of Brexit is severe and long-lasting.
Brexit was never implemented, you stupid fucking cow. It was never implemented. You fucking morons put a stop to that. We wanted a hard Brexit. You took us to court. You took the people to court who wanted a hard Brexit and forced them to have some kind of insane deal in Parliament. If we'd have gone hard Brexit and cut ties with the EU and forced them to come to the negotiating table, we would have got a far better deal from them if we'd have played hardball. You know, it's like what you do in business. You don't just surrender to them straight away and give them everything that they want and then come back and they say, right, we're offering you nothing. We were weak in the negotiations completely. Theresa May was weak in the negotiations. Boris Johnson was weak in the negotiations. The EU got absolutely everything that it wanted, and we got nothing. It's not a relationship with the EU. It's an abusive relationship where they punished us for daring to leave the EU. Now, if we'd have had stronger leadership at the time, we'd have told them to fuck off. Because guess what? They need us more than we need them. And that was always true of trade with the EU. She's a fucking moron. Sorry I'm swearing a lot, but this has really boiled my piss today, all this. Really has. It's like these lying scumbags. You know, fair enough, you make mistakes, but own up to them. Own them. Own your mistakes. Learn from them. But they can't do that because they're socialists. This is what socialists do all the time. They make massive mistakes, they make stupid decisions, and then they blame everybody else for the issues they've caused. That's what they do. Hell of enjoying, like, yeah. She's a super ugly, robotic, and nasally voice. Oh, God, it does my head in. Liz Truss budget, her budget increased taxation by 40 billion. She now has 50 billion shortfall, i.e., she increased taxation by 90 billion, borrowing money more under Rachel than Liz. Exactly. Well, they don't. Instead of coming into power and actually, cutting spending, they've increased it. So what did they think was going to happen? The economy was already in bad shape. It was already in bad shape. And then she comes in and says, right, how do we fix this? I know, more spending. Let's grow government. When they should have been shrinking it and cutting it. Got no idea, these people. No leaders, at least since 1973, mate. You know this. Just traitors, banks and merchants control all. I will keep saying there is no political answer. Political deceiver. Yeah, there isn't. There is no political solution to this. Well, we've got people like this in power. They're morons. Absolute morons. Right. Just want to have a look to see if I've actually put anything else on this. Should we risk watching Femi? Let's watch Femi. We'll risk watching him.
Morning, people. Welcome back to F. Morning, people. Welcome.
Right. Is that actually showing on here? Yeah, it's showing on here. Right. Okay. Good. Right. I warn you, this is going to be funny because he's as dumb as a plank of wood. He is. He's as thick as two short planks, this guy. I will get back to the comments in a bit. I know a lot of people are commenting. I'll get back to you in a bit. I just want to say this. Super chats are enabled for my live streams now. So if anybody wants to donate, feel free to do so. It's the only time I'm going to say it. A lot of people don't know about that yet. Right. Let's get to Femi.
Back to F politics. The UK government just announced that they're going to be raising your taxes.
Right, firstly, obviously, he's tried to up his image because he used to look like a little boy in t-shirt and shorts. So for some reason, he's gone to a joke shop. He's bought one of those fake beards and glued it to his chin, make him think it makes him look more grown up. In reality, it makes him look like a 10-year-old boy with a fake beard glued to his chin.
And cutting financial support for the things that you need in order to pay for Brexit.
Of course, we're looking at tax and spending as well.
There are tax rises coming down the track.
Yeah, but I think that this
Yes.
government...
Now, you've already heard people like me point to the research showing that Brexit is costing the UK government about £40 billion a year in lost tax revenue because the economy as a whole is smaller than it otherwise would have been. But hearing them...
He's an idiot, isn't he? He's an absolute idiot. Doesn't he know that the economy of the EU is probably shrinking faster than ours? The whole of the EU is in turmoil. They're in financial crisis just like we are. Yet this muppet seems to think that if we hadn't have left the European Union, we'd be okay now. No, actually, if we were still in the EU, we'd be a lot worse off than we are now. Because like someone just pointed out in the chat, not only would we be paying for all these illegal immigrants, we'd probably have a lot more, by the way, if we were still in the EU. We'd have that bill. We'd have the cost of the colonisation that we're paying for ourselves. Just want to put that out there. We'd also have the bill, which someone just mentioned here, for the EU, which is 18.8 billion a year annually that we'd have to pay to the EU. So we would be in greater financial strife. And let's not forget, right, the EU did more trade with us than we did with the EU. That's a fact. That's something these muppets can't seem to get their head around. Look at the chat. Ivan, hope you and your family are well. Don't worry about the swearing. Every time I see her talking, I think it's a wig recording machine with a voice on it. I like that one. It's really Lenny Henry in disguise, yeah. Femi fake, thick as mince. Are we listening to him? They believe money gives them the right to shout, to shit on us. It doesn't. No one is above me or any man, woman, or child. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Lost theft of our money, yep. USA economy booming, EU economy in free fall. UK economy can be like the USA economy, but Labour want it to be like the EU economy. Utter madness. Yeah, exactly. Madness. Just so muppets like this don't have to queue up at a queue at passport control anymore. That was the only real benefit of being in the EU. No other benefits. No other benefits at all. There wasn't any real benefits for us. They got more out of us than we got out of them. And that's the truth of the matter. That's why lots of people voted to leave them, because people could see this. Blah, blah, blah. Talk down because the head ain't listening, laugh out loud. Yeah. Hey, are you RJ? How are you doing? The mainstream media continually give these peddle the government narrative morons lots of time. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're going to get into that in a bit, by the way. But let's listen to what else this Muppet's got to say.
explicitly use that as a reason for them having to raise taxes is wild.
You agree? Yes, they're
Right. They're not raising taxes because of Brexit. We've already covered this. They're raising taxes because they're shit with our money. They've got none left. That's why they're raising taxes. What is it, 5 years ago? 5 years ago now? Well, six years ago now, 2019, we shut down the economy for 2.5 years. And before that, like we mentioned before that we had the credit crunch, we bailed the banks out, We lost a huge amount of money with that. Then we lost a huge amount of money when we shut the economy down for 2 years. That has had a knock-on effect. We never really recovered from that. It has nothing to do with Brexit at all. It doesn't. It's got everything to do with incompetent governments not cutting spending, instead increasing spending, not managing debt properly. So it's had a snowball effect until now we're at the position where we are, where the country is about to collapse because it has no money left. We're going to have to ask for an IMF bailout. We're not going to get it because they're in the same boat as we are. Germany, France, those sorts of people are in the same boat. Femi, the people, that are still in the EU, by the way, are in the same financial difficulty that we're in right now. And why is that? It's because most of the governments in Europe have chosen socialism. It's not a coincidence, is it, that half the countries in Europe have chosen socialism and now they're in economic crisis? Wonder why that could be. Can anybody think why that could be? Fucking morons. They all live in La La Land. They're full of BS. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. They thought we were all dumb and didn't see through the BS. They played the hand too soon. People are waking up to it, and it needs to happen a lot quicker. Well, this will definitely make them wake up. You wait until she hits people with massive tax rises in the budget. And while we're on it, let's talk about reform, shall we? I know a lot of people are reform supporters, but I'd like to get your opinions on this. What do you think to the fact that the reform councils, the majority of them, are raising council tax to its maximum amount, even though they promised they wouldn't raise council tax, they would freeze it? They themselves are raising council tax. What happened to this Doge stuff where we're supposed to be going around these councils and cutting away the fat? Now we find out that the councils are raising council tax again. I'd like to know what people think about that as well. Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
There are tax rises coming down the
Well,
track.
I was really clear during the general election campaign, and we discussed this many times, that I would always make sure that the numbers add up.
So that's Labour's Chancellor Rachel Reeves saying.
That's a bit rich coming from her, isn't it? Again, with the Keir Starmer voice.
I'll always make sure the numbers match up.
Yeah, because you're going to do some real bookkeeping, aren't you? You're going to do some real mental gymnastics with the numbers to make them fit. Even if it means, cooking the books a little. Hey, Rachel.
Sure that the numbers add up.
So that's Labour's Chancellor Rachel Reeves saying they're going to be raising taxes and cutting spending in order to make the numbers add up. And so the question is, why are the numbers in such a bad state?
The aim here is long-term growth, and one of the things that could set that back is the huge black hole that we're facing, possibly the need.
Well, what they should have done is a common sense thing. You raise the threshold for tax on people's earnings. So you raise it above. What is it at the minute? Is it 20,000? Is it 20,000 or is it? I'm not sure what it is at the minute. What's the threshold for tax on workers at the minute before they pay tax? It's not 20,000, is it? Is it? Somebody tell me. It's on the tip of my tongue. 12,500. Right. Yeah. Right. So. Roughly 12,500. Right, so if they raised that to £20,000 before people started paying tax, that would put more money in people's pockets. And when you put more money in people's pockets, they tend to spend it, boosting the economy, getting the economy going again, creating growth. That's what we need to happen. This is what these people don't understand. Sometimes it's not about grabbing as much tax as you can. Sometimes it's cutting tax to allow growth to happen and kick-starting the economy. And then you can start taking tax again once the economy is growing again. But that's lost on these people. They just think, no, we need more tax. Morons. growth is better than taxing people, much better. We have vast quantities of natural resources that could make us self-sufficient, saving billions. Cheap energy creates economy growth. Exactly. And I've said this in my morning video. I should have mentioned as well, fracking. I know a lot of people are against fracking, but when you're in an emergency situation, like what we're in with power and energy, you need to take drastic action. We need to frack, get our natural gas, start the coal mines back up. Let's start getting coal out of the ground. Let's start drilling for oil. Let's make ourselves energy sufficient. Look at Russia, right? Russia's a prime example of this. They don't have high energy bills. I think, who was it? I was watching a Russian guy that they pay something like £2.50 a month for their gas bills because they've got so much of it. They've got an excess. We could be like that. We could be exporting our natural resources to other countries, having an excess and having cheaper energy bills. But these people are mental. They're absolutely insane. It's their ideology that keeps them from doing this. Don't forget, right? The government isn't being run by the people in the government. The government is being run by China, Davos, and God knows who else. It's definitely not Keir Starmer. It's definitely not our parliament that is running things over there. Exactly. Drill, baby, drill. Exactly. They keep banging on about this carbon footprint, right? The fact of the matter is there's been more CO2 in the atmosphere in our past than there is now. And the planet thrived because you know what thrives on CO2? Plant life. Plant life loves CO2. So if you want to manage the carbon in the atmosphere, what do? You plant forests. You don't build solar farms. You don't build wind farms. You just build forests. You just plant forests. That's what you do. And you know what? If you do an open cast mine, you fill it back in again once you've got all the coal out, and then you can plant a forest on top of it. You can turn it into a nature reserve. That's what they did with a lot of the open cast mines in this area. They turned them into nature reserves, and they look beautiful because I've been around a lot of them. They don't have to be scars on the landscape if you properly manage them. And let's not forget, right? Let's not forget that the common sense thing about this. How can us paying more tax stop the heating of the planet? It's bullshit. Absolute 100% bullshit. There's no way this live stream is getting monetized, by the way, but I don't care. I'm just sick of hearing these people talk utter nonsense. I really am. It was the same thing. It's been going on for decades, this nonsense about the climate. At one time, it was about, oh, there's going to be an ice age. 1970s, we're going to be in an ice age. It's going to be global cooling. We're going to have an ice age. And then when I was at school in the 90s, it was all about the ozone layer. Oh, it's the ozone layer. Global warming, there's an ozone layer. If we don't stop, if we don't ban CFCs and refrigerators and gases, we're going to have a giant hole in the ozone, which never happened. Never happened. And then obviously it was about the ozone layer and acid rain and all this kind of shit. It was all bollocks. And then it shifted from global warming to climate change. The narrative shifts as people call out the bullshit. That's what happens. It's a massive tax scam. That's all it is. This is just about the transfer of wealth. It's all bollocks. Finn, I think she's been getting help from Dynamic with a mass at this time. Yeah, I think you're right. Abacus. They're not mental. It suits them to do it. They gave away our resources. Just came across a massive solar farm in my area, and all we get is grey skies, man-made and no sun. How's that going to work? It's not supposed to work, is it? Because what will happen is somebody in government will sit on the company that provides those solar panels, and they'll be getting massive subsidies from us on our energy bills, and they'll be getting massive kickbacks on their shares or from other means from giving these contracts out to different people. That's where they'll be making money. It's all about money. Everything that they do is about making money. It's about money, power, and influence. That's all it's ever about with these people. They're saying they are not stopping the planet temps rising by 2 degrees by 2050. The thing is, if you look at the science and you look at the science of climatology, right? Our atmosphere, our climate has never been stable. It has its peaks, it has its cycles that it goes through. That's what it does. And that's what these people don't seem to understand. We are not affecting the weather in any way, shape, or form, the climate, should I say. We're not affecting the climate in any way, shape, or form. Man apparently has, what is it? We've contributed, is it 0.04% carbon into the atmosphere, which is negligible. It's hardly noticeable in our atmosphere. And the thing is, more CO2 gets pumped out in a volcanic eruption than all of humanity has pumped into the atmosphere since its existence, since we went industrial. That's something that they, conveniently leave out of all of this. That volcanoes pump out vast amounts of CO2 when they erupt. What's their intentions? Are they going to pour some concrete into the top of volcanoes to try and stop them erupting? It's absolute madness. It's absolute nonsense. It's quack science. That's what it is. And so many of these muppet lefty hippies fall for it. And David Boak Attenborough sells it to the weak. Yeah, David Bellamy, he stopped being on television because he came out on, it was a TV interview, and he said climate change was nonsense. Never saw him on TV again after that. You know why? Why do politicians not talk about job creation anymore? I don't hear it because they're importing. They're importing their workforce, aren't they? They don't have to create jobs. They're not interested in us. I know that, then. It was just another highlight to viewers of the fraud being committed. Yeah. If I remember rightly, Jordan Peterson did a podcast a while ago about how the climate change narrative is just a prediction that they had to change the prediction software to get the result. Yeah, they actually had to create a model to get the result they wanted, because when they built a legitimate model, it just didn't give them the results they wanted for the narrative. Humans have had less than 4% influence on the atmosphere. Yeah, exactly. Thing is, Vin, they're affecting the weather by the shit that they're spraying. Yeah, I'm not going to go into that, Stefan. That's a discussion for another day. There are interesting debates going on about that. I need to look into it more before I have an opinion on it. I'm not going to say either way at this time. I'm not saying that it's not wrong. I'm not saying that it's right, but I like to look into things before I comment on them, if you know what I mean. What's more of a threat to humanity, extreme Islam or our governments? I'd say both. It's not either or, it's both, in my opinion. Then I'm sure I smell methane when Labour talk. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, Vin. There is a human element contributing to the environment along with natural environment change. Right. We're not talking about the environment. We're talking about climate. They're two very different things. I'm not saying that people aren't dumping lots of plastic into the sea, because they are. And that is an issue that needs sorting out. I'm talking about climate change, not environment. That's a completely different factor. So I'll read it again. Sorry, Vin. There is a human element contributing to the environment along with natural environment change. It is being deliberately overstated. Yeah, and like I said, they're two different things. Climate change and the environment are two different things. Yes, something needs to be done about the dumping of plastic into the sea. It's atrocious. It needs to be sorted out. But it's not us doing it. If you go and look around India, Pakistan, and places like that, they literally have rivers full of plastic that just gets dumped straight out into the sea. But nobody wants to tackle that issue. Then please watch the interview that just came out with British Thought Leaders channel with a chap called Martin Duncan. You will find him fascinating as he thinks along your lines on socialism. I'll have a look at him. Extreme Islam, but the government that is really, it's the same stuff. They're both the same. Vin, I would go and look into it, mate, and then you'll see for yourself. That's what I'm going to do. I know there's evidence out there because Kennedy? He looked into it and he found out that's exactly what they were doing in America. People saying, yeah, they were trying to alter the weather with chemicals in America. He found that out. He proved that. What concerns me is Bill Gates and his plan to try and block out the sun by spraying crystals into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight back into space. They're just crazy. They're insane. These people are insane. If any flat earthers out there, if the earth is flat, how thick is it? Yeah, and the same other scams. Yeah, it's all scams. Let's see that one. Trying to get as many people great stuff in. Here's the interview, blew me away, by the way. He explained things with the snobby classes, etc. Yeah. Bill Gates is the deranged psychopath. Have you noticed who's gone to work for Microsoft? Rishi Sunak has gone to work for Microsoft. That's not a coincidence, that is it really? Was it the Daily Mail online that showed a map of all the weather altering stuff that goes on in this country not so long ago? I don't know. Like I said, at the minute, I'm not looking into any of that sort of stuff. My main focus for this channel is getting this country back. We are getting this country back. And that's my number one focus thing to do. It's about ways we can get this country back and highlighting the idiots that come out in this. Bill Gates is pure evil. Yes, he is. As is Tony Blair. He's pure evil as well. You cannot control nature. It will come back to bite them on the arse. Yes, it will. Fuck. What's about? That's what super wealth does. It allows geeks to influence the politics and nature. Exactly. They get bored. They get bored. They get so much money and so much power, they don't know what to do with it. Instead of using it for the betterment of humanity, they do it in these pet projects to give themselves more power and more wealth. You know, I'm pretty sure that smart guys like Bill Gates could find a way to turn some of the African desert fertile. They were trying to do it. They were trying to pump salt water, purify salt water at the coast and pump it inland into the desert to turn it into a fertile area to feed the starving people out there. But instead, oh no, we'll work on ways to block out the sun. Terraforming our planet into something else, maybe. I'm not even going to go into that, Stefan. If humanity has to learn a lesson after our reset, is never ever let people get super wealthy. I don't think it's the fact that people are super wealthy. It's just that evil people can become super wealthy. Look at Elon Musk. I know people have issues with him, good and bad, but at least he's trying to help us, isn't he? Exactly that thing. All the good things they could do, could be doing. Exactly, yeah. You know, actually doing something to help people instead of insane shit like blocking out the sun. Let's see, you know, Stefan just talked about terraforming, right? Terraform the South African Sahara Desert into something useful for people, make it habitable, make it fertile. That's what they could be doing. But instead, it's all about control. It's all about control and power. Just imagine the circles you would get in if you were super rich. Exactly. Just imagine what goes on. Scary. Right, let's get back to Femi and his crap.
For tax rises. I read at the weekend that this government's putting the blame for that at the door of Brexit. Is that something that you agree with?
So the Office of Budget Responsibility, who provide the independent forecasts for government, they have consistently overestimated our productivity performance.
Because of Brexit?
So look, it'll be up to them to set that out.
Unless the OBR is about to say something even worse about Brexit, they already have set that out. They're the ones.
Right, just put this out here, right? Femi sounds like he's got an American accent. Is he American? Is he from America? Because he's got a bit of an accent going on. He's not entirely a British accent, that is it? Just out of curiosity, is he American? Because he sounds American. Is he American or a Canadian? She's in that position because she's thick. Look at when Starmer did his cabinet reshuffle. Who would you have thought would have had the massive target on their back to get the boot out of all of them? Yeah, Yvette Cooper's messed up, but who messed up the most? Rachel Reeves. And yet she was the one who was left unscathed in all of that. Why? If it isn't planned, if all this isn't planned, then why keep that sack of shit in a job? You see, it's a mixture. I get into trouble with this all the time when I say it's incompetence. It's a mixture of the both, right? Yes, the government, this is planned. The government fully intends to run this country into the ground. That's their intention. But the way they're doing it is to put incompetent people into positions of power. So they've got legitimate reason to say, well, it wasn't planned. It's just they're just incompetent. It gives it more plausibility if the person doing the job is shit than if you put a competent person in that position and then the country tanked. Because then questions would be asked, well, why are they making all these bad decisions? Because they're normally quite good at their job. Why all of a sudden they're making bad decisions? More questions will be asked if you put somebody of quality in that position and tanked the country than if you put somebody in that position who's shit. Do you get my meaning? So yes, there is an element of planned decline of this country, but the way they're doing it is by putting absolute shocking people into positions of power. So they've got plausible deniability. They can say, well, they were just shit at the job. Yeah, Keir Starmer made a poor decision in putting her in that position. That's what they're looking for. Does that make sense?
Who've said that because the UK is no longer under the same legal system as the EU, that creates barriers when it comes to trading, and that's what's reduced the size of our economy by about 4%. But carry on.
Well, austerity, Brexit, and the ongoing
He's got an American twang in there. Somebody said it was Scottish.
impact of Liz Truss's mini budget, all of those things have weighed heavily on the UK.
No, it's not. It's just because you're absolute shit at your job and you've mismanaged the country's money. That's what's happened. You're shit at your job. You shouldn't even be in that position. You lied on your CV about your credentials and you shouldn't be in that job. And the only reason you're still in that job is because, like I just said, it's plausible deniability. It's that you're just really, really shit at managing money and you shouldn't be there, which is part of the managed, planned decline of this country, is putting people like you in places of power to fuck things up. That's your job.
Economy.
Okay, so the UK economy is in a bad state because of austerity, Brexit, and Liz Truss's.
No, it's got nothing to do with that, Femi. It's called a knock-on effect. It's the ripple effect. It's called shutting the economy down for 2 years and then printing money like it's going out of fashion and then building up massive debt. And then instead of managing that debt, you just print more money to manage that debt, to try and disguise the fact that you've printed so much money and that we're in so much debt now that we can't get out of it. It's a runaway effect. It's just, we are screwed. Absolutely screwed. Nothing to do with Brexit, nothing to do with Liz Truss, nothing to do with any of that bullshit you just said, because you're an ideologue. Your whole ideology is the EU. So at every opportunity you get to blame Brexit for everything. I mean, I'm surprised you've not blamed Brexit for the piles on your arse, to be honest with you. But if you could blame Brexit on that, you would. You literally blame Brexit for everything that is wrong with this country. I blame Brexit for your beard, by the way.
Any budget. Now, with austerity, I'm assuming you're referring to the Conservatives' austerity, not your own. Liz Truss's mini budget, again, that's the Conservatives. But Brexit, yes, it was started under the Conservatives, but you're in control of it now. So in terms of...
Yeah, Brexit never happened. Brexit never happened. We got, as somebody pointed out, Stefan pointed out, we got Brino, which is Brexit in name only. That's it. Yeah, we left on paper. But we're still very much tied to the EU. We're more or less, somebody described it in the comments on my video this morning as being in limbo. We're in, I think it was Tom actually. Tom sent me a comment. Yeah, we're in like economic limbo. We're neither in nor out. We're just in between somewhere. We don't have any say in the EU anymore. We're like a vassal state. We have no say in the EU's policies, but we're still in it, if you know what I mean. That makes any sense.
Actually improving the economy and getting rid of the bad stuff that's weighing us down, you're blaming a policy that you have full control over.
People thought that the UK economy would be 4% smaller because of Brexit. Now, of course, we are undoing some of that damage by the deal that we did with the EU earlier this year.
Just fucking hell. Dundee is a shithole. No difference. No offense meant. Oh, this boy. He said it says he grew up in the West Midlands and attended school in Dundee. Right, so that'll account for his slightly Scottish accent then. Then I think the Starmer's plan was always to. It was definitely 100%. This has been the plan all the way from Tony Blair. The planning stage of it was happening since World War II, and the actual plan itself came into effect when Tony Blair took office in 1997. We can plot everything back. We can plot the decline of this country back to 1997. Defo sounds like she needs a Lemsip. Yeah. They literally do try to bring up Brexit into everything. Absolute weirdos. They are. They are absolutely nuts. Crazy people.
Now, the deal she's talking about was a deal made in May, but it was an agreement in principle. We would agree to eventually start following the EU's rules in order to make trade between the UK and the EU easier and therefore cheaper, which would ultimately lower prices in the supermarket, which the supermarkets have now confirmed. But
what is he talking about? The cost of food crisis. Oh, fucking hell. The cost of living crisis comes from inflation. Because the government has been printing money out of control since COVID. So how can supermarkets drop prices when it's due to inflation? Somebody answer me that one, because that's puzzling to me. Can somebody explain that to me? How supermarkets can drop prices when the price rises are directly because of inflation? It's like, I said this before, I say this to my son because my son does this, but Femi's the same. It's like Information goes in and gobbledygook comes out. Then my grandfather, before he died, said Brexit should be called Brexit. Okay? He's a total moron. Make damn it look intelligent. Yeah, definitely.
A, that's an agreement in principle. It hasn't happened yet. It still needs to be negotiated. And B, like she said, it only undoes some of the damage. There are estimates that say it's only going to increase our economy by about 0.3%.
Right, the damage was done where I have to keep going over this shit, but it's like, you know, the damage was done by consecutive governments, mainly because they haven't shrunk back on government. They haven't cut government spending. They just continue to do it, even though we're in lots and lots of debt. Anybody knows that if you don't manage your debt, if you just ignore the debt and just keep borrowing money, you get into more and more debt. Eventually, it's all going to come crashing down on you. And that's exactly what is happening. During the pandemic, we borrowed lots of money that we could never possibly pay back because we were already in financial trouble at the time. So this is a case of, if, like somebody said, if this was like a home economy, then we'd probably be filing for liquidation, right? If this was a company, we'd be filing for liquidation right now because we're in deep shit. We can't pay off our interest, let alone the debt. So it's just going to snowball from now on. It's got nothing to do with Brexit, nothing at all. And it calls it a Brexit tax. It's not a Brexit tax. We should call it a socialism tax because that's exactly what it is. It's a socialism tax.
When Brexit cost us 4%. Why? Because the government is still refusing to rejoin the EU single market and customs union, which...
Yeah, because that'd really help us out, wouldn't it, you fucking moron? Fucking hell. He doesn't understand, does he, that the EU was a protectionist racket? That's what it was. We weren't getting a fair deal in the EU. We couldn't make deals with other countries. We couldn't negotiate with other countries unless the EU said so, because it was a protectionist racket, because they wanted the monopoly on things. They didn't want the UK going off and getting a better deal from another country and trading with them and ignoring the EU. It's a protectionist racket, Femi. That's the whole point. The goods that the EU had were probably, not very good. Not as good as products we could get from outside the EU. And the EU knew this. So it kept us tied to it so that we couldn't trade with the countries. That's the whole point. Fucking moron. He's suggesting that less paperwork, i.e. less admin, and therefore fewer staff, will reduce the cost in the shops. Oh, God. I know. Reality is, you're correct, Vin. Inflation in the UK is a result of poor currency exchange rates due to all the money printing in the UK that has been done since COVID. Yeah. So how does his theory of rejoining the EU solve any of that? The supermarkets can't just reduce their prices because then they'd be making a loss. They'd be making a loss. They would then go out of business. That's the point of inflation. That's why it's so damaging. But it still makes me laugh, that interview we did with Katie Hopkins when his handler, when he started asking the hard questions, and they pulled him out. They pulled him out of the interview because he couldn't answer. That was hilarious. In his little shorts, his t-shirt. I'll try and get that up because that's funny to watch. That is funny to watch. Bullshit baffles brains. The government bullshits constantly. The whole system is a psyop and financial manipulation. Yeah. Then I think my son is more intelligent than this guy. I think that's insulting towards your son, to be honest with you, comparing him to this guy. It is. It's a protectionist racket. Then my son is a lot more intelligent than this clown. Yeah, he is. Femi is a race baiting nothing shill. Yeah, he is. Totally agree. Right, let's see.
Basically means they're refusing to properly join the EU's trade policy and legal system, which would completely remove all the trade barriers. Why? Because they're too scared of what people like Nigel Farage and the Daily Mail will say about them, which leaves us in a position where the UK government...
So basically, what Mr. Muppet here is suggesting is that we give up all our fantastic trade deals we've done with other countries that are reducing costs because we can make these fantastic deals with other countries. What he's suggesting is we throw all that in the bin to rejoin a protectionist racket where we can't control the prices on things, where we can't negotiate deals for stuff because the EU does that for us. So this guy's arguing for us to lose our negotiating power in trade deals. That's basically what he's saying. Give all that up. Give it all up. Let the EU decide the prices. The guy's a moron. He's an absolute... Oh, has he got that's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer t-shirt on it, Sunny Day High. That explains a lot. Femi is a unisex name and is common in Nigeria. It translates to love me, as stated on Wikipedia. They're not even selling the food at higher prices, but it's not even nutritional. It's used to be, and most of it is halal. Yeah, it's all processed food crap. If anybody wants to eat more healthily, grow your own food. Learn how to grow your own food. Don't eat any of that processed crap that they sell. It's just full of salt, sugar, and crap that's not good for you. Grow your own food. At least grow your own vegetables. That's my advice, because then you know where they've come from. I'm thinking about getting a little greenhouse and growing some vegetables in my garden.
is simply accepting that Brexit is doing and will continue to do long-term damage to the UK.
But there is no
He's just full of shit, isn't he?
doubting that the impact of Brexit is severe and long-lasting.
Oh God, it's like she's really setting the stage, isn't she, for a massive fail that she's going to have to do. Well, I'm going to have to raise all the taxes because of Brexit. And of course, everybody at the time is going to come and point out that it's not about Brexit, that it's just about that she's just been really shit with money.
So the UK government is plainly admitting that Brexit is limiting the size and growth of our economy. And how does that link?
No, they're not. They're using it as an excuse. They're not saying that at all, Femi. They're using Brexit as an excuse for their own failings. That's what they're doing. And you're jumping on the bandwagon because you like to shag the EU's flag, don't you? You're an EU flag shagger. That's why you're jumping on this bandwagon, because you think the government is blaming Brexit at last. You can say that, so you can go, aha, I told you so, without realizing that the government is using Brexit as an excuse for their own failings, for their own financial failings. And if you had a little bit of intelligence inside that little head of yours, you'll be able to go out there and do your own research and actually find out facts, which you never do because you just spout absolute bullshit. And you would find out for yourself that this is all just smoke and mirrors to cover up their own financial failings, because they've printed money, they've continued to print money, and it's increased the national debt to a point now where at a breaking point where the economy is going to collapse. So they're now having to raise taxes because of it. That's what's happening, Femi. Nothing to do with Brexit. I agree, it never left the EU. We never left it. And the proof is still there, because there are still thousands of EU legislation and red tape still in place that Rishi Sunak never got rid of. So we are still tied to the EU. We are still regulated heavily by EU law. So we never really left. As Stefan said earlier, Brexit is the implemented name only. Femi, the solution is to implement Brexit and implement it properly. Exactly, fully. Leave fully. We all wanted a hard Brexit. We all wanted to give the EU the absolute boot, sever all ties. And then once we started to boom as a country, once we started to boom with making deals with other countries and stuff like that, taking advantage of Brexit. I mean, the ultimate advantage to Brexit would have been for Boris Johnson to take back our fishing grounds and rebuild our fishing industry. Another industry rebuilt would have benefited the country, created jobs, created wealth, created growth. But he didn't do that. He capitulated once again to the EU because they never wanted to leave. All these advantages of Brexit were never taken advantage of. None of it.
To the taxes they're about to make you pay?
Why we're putting all the effort into growing our economy, because that in the end is what brings in the tax revenues to be.
Yeah, well, taxing people isn't going to grow the economy, is it? Which is what she said she's going to do. She's going to raise taxes. So
be able to afford to keep taxes low.
What she's saying there is that if the economy grows bigger, then they don't have to tax such a large percentage of it in order to get the same amount of money. So let's sum up what you just heard. The person who Labour put in charge of our economy is saying that Brexit is the main active policy.
Keeps focusing on Brexit, doesn't he? He's not looking at the bigger picture because Femi's not very smart, is he? Not very smart at all. He doesn't realise, like I've said before, that the reason the government is blaming Brexit is to cover up their own failings and their own mistakes. They're doing what socialists always do. They always blame their failings and mistakes on something else. And Brexit is just a prime target for that. It is. They never wanted Brexit. So if they can blame Brexit, they're killing two birds with one stone. They're covering up their own failings and they're also setting the stage for a return to the EU. A smart person would see that. Unfortunately, Femi's not smart. That's definitely asking that one. Then pay every time they open their mouth. It makes me feel sick. It's just pure fiction. They're spewing out the fucking morons. Exactly, Stefan. Yeah, I get you. I feel your pain, mate. I feel your pain. I had to listen to this, don't forget. Vin, I hope Starmer can make his trip out of the UK one way, yeah. All the EU countries having the same problems. Exactly. But Femi won't bring that up because Femi's a moron. The Scottish National Party ruined the education system in Scotland. Femi is a living example of second-rate education system. Yep, definitely. Taught how to think, aren't they? They're taught what to think, not how to think, or how to just formulate an argument by doing research and then formulating their own opinion based on the research that they've done. They're just told what to think in schools nowadays. Okay. Starmer is away, yeah, definitely. 100%. Yeah, they can blame Brexit, the far right, Elon, Tommy, and it goes on. Exactly. They just keep blaming everything apart from themselves. That's what socialists do. We're going to get to that in a minute after we get rid of. We've only got. I don't think I'm going to get through all of this.
That is shrinking our economy. She has said that if the economy is too small, then taxes have to be higher, and that she's now going to raise taxes. Translation, we are now going to be paying higher rates of tax in order to pay for Brexit. And because she said...
No, Femi, if you use that little tiny brain of yours in there, right, we're going to be paying higher taxes because our government has more money going out than it has coming in. And that isn't because of Brexit. That is because we keep giving billions of pounds away to people that don't need it, like Ukraine and other things that we're committed to. Foreign aid. We're currently paying for illegal immigrants in hotels £8 million a day. You do the math on that, Femi. How much does that cost a year? How much is that costing us a year? They have to raise taxes because they're spending too much money. It's got nothing to do with Brexit or the damage of Brexit. It's got everything to do with what happened during 2019. The cost of living crisis was created then. Boris created the net zero green bullshit policy because of his girlfriend, Carrie, because she's a raving lunatic. All these things have an accumulative effect on our economy. And we're just now seeing the results of that. This has been going on for decades. You just can't see it because you're ideologically driven. Because whoever your handlers are, because they've given, you're the face of pushing what they want. You're just a talking head. That's all you are, to push an agenda. You're paid to push an agenda that Brexit failed and that the UK should rejoin the European Union. No doubt you're bought and paid for by the EU itself. I'm guessing that's who your handlers are, is the EU. So you're looking at this from a completely biased perspective. You have no rational thought in your mind whatsoever. You can't look at this subjectively and come up with a conclusion based on purely unbiased information. Your mind was already made up. Your mind was already made up. So you're pointless. You're useless. And we shouldn't listen to you whatsoever. I think we've heard enough of that guy anyway. He's a moron. Femi, you absolute fool. Yeah, he is. All my friends bought Xboxes with the furlough money they got. Yeah. Free money, they thought it was free money until they found out that they'd no longer got a job because furlough just turned into full-time redundancy because a lot of these places didn't recover. I got made redundant from a place, and that's why I went back into security for a time. I got made redundant from a place. It was doing international, it did international trade with its goods. And it just couldn't do it anymore because they couldn't send the people abroad to finalize deals and things like that. So they had to get rid of people. The business didn't recover. It shut down. Personally, I think it's all distraction. They have the big agenda. I don't know what that is. Think about what they showed at the Olympic Games and displayed. Yeah, okay. Okay. Right, let's go and have a look. We'll stop sharing that for a minute. And we'll go and have a look at this. I can find it, that is. I think I bookmarked it. No, I don't think I bookmarked that one. Right. God, he never started. Just another comment by Femi. He never shuts up, that guy. Just talks absolute rubbish. Right. Let's try and find what I was looking for. I keep getting distracted. Sorry, everybody. Trying to see if I actually put it on here. I think I did. Sure did. Did I? Oh yeah, here it is. Right. Now, just want to say something from the offset. Right. I understand that some of my audience aren't particularly fans of Tommy Robinson. And I get that. I do. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to judge you for that opinion. You're entitled to it. But I want you to bear in mind, right, what I'm about to show you affects all of us. It really does. It's about the bigger picture in this situation. So here we've got Liberal Democrats, and I put here, how do these clowns even get into Parliament? So we'll play this.
On Monday, the far-right, racist hate preacher, Tommy Robinson, who is...
So I'm going to cover that statement right there. None of that is true. Regardless of what you think about Tommy Robinson, none of that is true. He's not far-right. He's not a hate preacher or anything like that. They are just objective facts.
Is currently on trial for allegedly refusing to comply with counter-terror police.
Yeah, right. So let's look into that, right? And this is the bit I want you to pay attention to, because regardless of what you think about Tommy Robinson, this could happen to any single one of you. The police could do this to any single one of you. And this is why it's important that we fight back against it. Right. So what she's mentioning here is she's trying to smear Tommy's name by saying that he refused to comply with counter-terrorism. What she fails to mention is that the police abused their power in using that law against Tommy Robinson. They shouldn't have used the Terrorism Act to stop him at the airport. They had no reason to use that. The only reason they used that was to gain access to his phone, because he had journalistic information on that phone about grooming gang survivors. And they wanted that information. So they abused their powers to get it. That's what happened. And the reason we should stand against this, regardless of what you think about Tommy Robinson, everybody should be standing against this, because this could be done to you at some point. So I get it. People don't like Tommy. Fair enough. But don't gloat about the establishment using powers abusing their powers to detain people, because one day it could be you. That's why we have to stand against these things. We really do. I'll let it play on.
Claimed that his legal costs are being paid by Elon Musk. It is outrageous that a man who has so much control over what people read online every day could be funding someone who stokes far-right extremism on our streets.
She's talking absolute rubbish. And this is what we've got in Parliament. This could be any one of you she's talking about. She can say this openly and freely in Parliament about somebody with no facts or evidence to back it up whatsoever. This is purely just to smear somebody's name. And before you go around saying, well, it's just Tommy, I don't care. It could be you. The next person that these people target could be you. Don't forget that.
If this was Putin, the government surely would act. So will the Prime Minister commission the security services to assess the threat that Elon Musk poses to our democracy and recommend measures to this House?
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see a commission of security services do an investigation into every one of these scumbags in Parliament. Because you know what? If we started digging around in their private lives about the dodgy deals that they're doing, about who's funding them, I'm sure we'd pull out some pretty massive skeletons from their cupboards in all of this. This is all about fear. This is all about fear. They fear Tommy. And you may not like him, but it's true. They fear him. They fear us. They fear the Patriot movement as a whole. That's why they're doing this. And don't forget, what you wish on somebody could also happen to yourself. You turn a blind eye to somebody else, one day it could be you in the crosshairs of this type of stuff. That's why we need to stand against it. And I would like to see an investigation into all these scum, especially this person. She needs to be kicked out of the House of Parliament. You can't do that. You can't go into the House of Parliament and lie about somebody like she's doing right now, slandering somebody in Parliament, labelling them as something that they're clearly not, and that she has no evidence of. This is the low standard of MP that we have in the House of Parliament now. Obviously, she's a Democrat. I think she's the deputy leader, which makes loads of sense to me, since the court jester is Ed Davey, and we've got this piece of shit as the deputy leader. These are the people we need to be removing from Parliament in elections. People like this. We really do. They don't deserve to be there. They shouldn't be there. They're an absolute disgrace. And I'm not just saying this just because it's Tommy Robinson. I'll be saying this if it was anybody, because it could be any one of you watching this live stream right now that they're doing this to quite easily. Very, very easily. And don't think for 1 second that they wouldn't do it. They would. They really would. They're losing control of the narrative. Yes, they are. And that's why they're scared. I say, I think it sounds scared. Yeah, definitely. 100%. The term far right needs to be defined. That the far left, i.e. our government, use the term far right to describe everyone who doesn't agree with their hard left agenda at Labour support. Exactly right, Kenny. That's 100% correct. They do. They fear sovereignty. They fear the people of this country. We would find things a whole lot worse if you know about Miranda toilet job. You know about Blair. Yeah, there's a lot of dirty dealings going on. These people make themselves out to be whiter than white. Oh, we're the uttermost of purity and integrity. They should really drop the right honourable gentleman, because there's not one single honourable person in the House of Parliament, apart from Rupert Lowe, I would say. So the rest of them should drop all this right honourable shit, because none of them are honourable at all. That they would all sell their own grandmother if it meant that they would be getting more power and more influence. All of them. They're just scumbags. Absolute scumbags. Right. Got that out of the way. I'm having a proper rant today. A proper rant. Right. And anything else I was going to say? Yes, tomorrow. Plan of action for tomorrow. There's still going to be a morning walk video tomorrow. So watch out for that. Saturday might be a little bit different, because I found that if I just upload one video a day, it does a lot better. If I try to upload two, then one takes traffic away from another at the minute, while my channel's still growing. So I'm trying to limit it to just one video a day at the moment. So Saturday, no morning walk video, but there will be a special video coming up that day as well. Watch out for that one. I think you're going to enjoy it. Hopefully, we'll get some really good footage, but we'll see what happens. Yes, right. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to end this here. We're going to have an hour and 23 minutes. So I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Really appreciate everybody. I really do. It means a lot to me, you all being here. You know that. And thanks to all the new subscribers that have come along. Hope you're enjoying the channel. Hope you're enjoying the content. So yeah, thanks for coming along, guys. I shall see you all in the next video. This is Vindicator, signing off.